Welcome to the Smarter Science of Slim, the scientifically proven program where you eat more and exercise less to burn fat and boost health.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor back with another bonus Smarter Science of Slim podcast. And you know, this show is about much more than just slimness. It's about living our best lives. So I always like to look out in the broader world for people who have turned inwards and trusted themselves to not only achieve health, but to achieve happiness as well. And today's guest is a great individual, a great example of that. He has a very fun story. He's a very fun guy. And the reason I wanted to bring him on the show was David Siteman Garland, who is our guest today, has created from the ground up with nothing one of the most popular online resources out there. And he's helping individuals to change their lives and just having folks live better, and doing that on his own terms is awesome. And we should figure out how we can live better from him. And he's the owner of the risetotop.com website and show. David Siteman Garland, welcome, brother.
Hello, Jonathan. I am excited to be here, my man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely my pleasure, David. Well, I know a lot of my listeners are not going to be as familiar with your work as some might be. So can you take us through your story from when you were little David to where you are now, and just paint that picture for us?
Yeah, well, it's a pretty unconventional story. So first of all, I'm born and raised in exotic St. Louis, Missouri. So right here in the Midwest. And by the way, I love St. Louis. I think St. Louis is one of the more underrated cities, but that's I might be a little bit biased.
David, I was raised in Columbus, Ohio, so I understand where you're coming from.
There we go. And I'm a big family person. And I'm a big, kind of simple, enjoy the simple pleasures in life. And I think St. Louis kind of, offers that along with great sports and things like that. So, I'm from St. Louis. And what's funny is I'm not one of those people that was sort of the childhood entrepreneur or anything like that when I was growing up. You know how you hear some stories where people had 17 lemonade stands at the age of 2 or whatever they did. That's not me. I kind of, sort of childhood and growing up, pretty typical. What was big into sports, big into having fun. I really didn't have the business bug yet at all when I was growing up. I was, actually my number one love growing up, believe it or not, my passion was hockey. That was really what I loved to do as I grew up here in St. Louis. And I went to university or college, depending on where you're from, whatever you want to call it, at Washington University here in St. Louis. And again, I still didn't have that game plan, right? Of okay, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to study this, and I'm going to become that. My wife, she's the opposite, right? So she had a game plan. When she was 18 years old, 17 years old, she's like, you know what I want to do? I want to become a doctor. Somehow she knew this and went to medical school and got it all done. For me, I didn't really know what to do. So I went to WashU, and Jonathan, you might know the answer to this. Do you know what I majored in at WashU?
I do, but I'll let you tell it because it'll be fun.
Okay. So my major at WashU, and I'm not kidding, was women's studies. So straight white male in women's studies, I think the first one ever in Washington University history. That was my actual major in college. And I think it kind of sums up a bit about me is that, I don't love the conventional path. I don't love doing things just because I think I should do them. And, what I realized in college was you got 4 years to do something awesome. I'd rather be excited to go to class every day than try to plan out what I'm going to be doing the next, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. So I majored in women's studies at Washington University in St. Louis. No, I did not have plans to become a woman, but that's been asked before. That was not on the list. Came out of school, no idea what I was going to do for a living. Ended up working in the hockey industry for a couple years in the inline hockey industry, which was crazy here in St. Louis. That's its own story by itself. And then I really got into the internet business world in 2008 when I decided to start kind of a TV show and resource called The Rise to the Top. And that's evolved so much since then. It's evolved into a big lifestyle business, and with hundreds of thousands of people and customers and people that buy my come in for products and training and things like that. And really what we're centered on the Rise to the Top is helping what I call mediapreneurs, which are, people similar to me, that people that are creating sort of lifestyle businesses, usually around like a blog or a podcast or a web show or something like that online. And they want to turn that into, income in a business where they can actually help people. And I think that's such a key thing here. And we've become a resource for those mediapreneurs to teach them, the finer things in life, like how to make money, how to market themselves, how to turn this into a legitimate business. Because I think, the ability and the independence of being able to work basically behind a computer when you want, from where you want, is one of the coolest versions of entrepreneurship out there, for sure.
David, I want to dig into the life you've lived. So you studied women's studies. You obviously you did not major in mediapreneurship. You did not have a how-to book or a blueprint for how to build the rise to the top.com. What is it about you, and can others cultivate this inner drive to create and to find that path rather than looking for the next how-to guide or looking externally for that path?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question because, I've always been someone where, I can pivot on a dime, where I can kind of go one direction and then see if things are working and then really quick be able to go a different direction, So the rise to the top, like what you see now, is very different than what it started back in 2008. I mean, it's evolved and changed like so many times. We could do a 4-hour conversation about how many times it's changed, and what I've kind of gone with it. But I think the key like underlying factor for me was that there was some criteria that I wanted as I started to build this over the years. And the criteria I didn't even know when I started. It's just funny. It's just like it changes over time. But, one of the criteria that I wanted was, I wanted to work from home or / anywhere, if that makes sense, right? I didn't want to build a business that was confining me to, some kind of space. I'm probably relatively, in the near future, we're planning on having kids. Right. And I wanted to be at home. I'm like, that's my life. I am a big lifestyle proponent. And I always put that kind of stuff first when it comes to designing a business and making decisions. Like, I don't always think about, this is going to generate the most maximum revenue of all time. Sometimes I think of like, well, how much time and effort am I have to put into it as well? So I think like a lifestyle is a huge component of something that I'm very passionate about. The other thing is that I wanted to have a business that had an impact on people. And, I think that when you think about it in those terms, it could really change your perspective, as opposed to like, how do you sell more stuff to people, right? Or thinking like that, you got to know, and you have to believe that whatever you're selling to people is changing lives. And as corny as it sounds, in some form or fashion. So for me, I know that, if people get a training or people come in and buy my products and programs, it's going to help them earn more money, which of course could change your life, right? It's going to help them, be able to, achieve like the freedom that they want out of their business, or work from home, or spend more time with kids and friends and family, like whatever it might be. Because I think for me, that's a lot of the driving factor for sure.
David, getting clear on your goals, that to me just resonates so deeply. And I think it is so important in so many areas of our lives, because you mentioned we all have somewhat similar goals, like to be happy and blah, blah, blah. But there are sub goals underneath that. So the flexibility, the having a positive impact, I love that you call those out, because if your goal is to do something that gives you flexibility and enables you to have a positive impact, another person might look at that and say, David, you're doing it wrong. You should do it this way.
Right.
And they're not right, but they're also not wrong, because maybe this way, their way, is more effective at, let's just say, making as much money as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when I started, okay, what I did was I interviewed this is before I kind of tailored down to mediapreneurship. I interviewed entrepreneurs in person, on camera, on through the internet, hundreds and hundreds of them in all different types of businesses, right? Like tech startups, mom and pop shops, like every type of business you could possibly imagine, right? And I interviewed all these people, and I was always curious not only about the business, but also the lifestyle and kind of stuff that went along with it, right? And to me, it was kind of sad when I would find these people that on the outward appearance were very successful, right? So they had built something that, let's say was generating a lot of money, right? But they were working 23 hours a day. They never saw the family. They were overweight. Like there were these issues that came in, and I was like, God, I don't want that, right? Like I don't want that at all. And I started to find the happiest subset of people were kind of these mediapreneurs. And for me, that's the way I look at it. I mean, like, listen, let's not beat around the bush here, Jonathan. You can make a big time living out of this. Do you know what I mean? This is not something where, it's like you have to compromise lifestyle for money. Do you get what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you can make a huge income from this. But for me, I just love the flexibility of being able to, like last week, my wife and I, we just decided, let's just skip a full thing. Let's go down to our favorite hotel downtown. Let's have a little staycation. Let's do a spa day. Let's have fun with it. And we just did it. We're going out of town for 10 days coming up and walking away from it. Having that ability as, and also fitness and nutrition are something very important to me too, Jonathan, as I know to you, in other business models, sometimes you don't have that flexibility to be able to do those things. So for me, it's very much a perfect storm. And that's why I do it. And that's also why I'm kind of an advocate for the industry itself, because I think it's just can be one of those, I hate to use the word balance, but it's one of those things where you really can kind of achieve all those goals at the same time.
You use the phrase perfect storm, and I want to isolate that word perfect because it sounds like what you've found is a lifestyle that is perfect for you. And that is so important. I think we sometimes lose sight of that as individuals and as a culture, where it's like, no, this is the path. Go on this path versus what is your path. And for you, you want that ability to be flexible. You want that ability to have fitness and to easily go on 10-day vacations. And the only way it sounds like you found that was by looking inward and saying, first, I have to identify that which matters most to me. And now I need to figure out a way I can accomplish that. But all of those things are putting the responsibility and then also the opportunity back onto you as an individual. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, what works for me might not work for you, but might not work for other people. The key, though, but the principles of the idea that you can design this around what you want to do, right, and how you want to live. Like if you want to be traveling 24/7 and doing all, city to city, there's business models for that. There's business models for, living on the countryside in a, whatever it might be. It's discovering the challenge, right? And that sometimes it isn't so clear and it takes a little bit of time to uncover is what you really want. That's what you really want. That's the thing. That's the where people struggle.
Let's say that again and celebrate it. Listeners, that is the key, is finding out what you really want. Because let's go back to health and fitness here for a second. People say, Jonathan, Dave, you probably hear this when you talk about health and fitness. Well, clearly just like starving yourself and eating and exercising obsessively works. Haven't you seen The Biggest Loser? And I say, well, the goal of the people on The Biggest Loser is to, one, make entertaining television, and right, two, to drop as much weight as quickly as possible. Are Correct. Those your goals? Because if they're not, you'll probably want to take a different approach.
Right. Very well said.
And it sounds like that. And that applies to all areas of life, it seems like, as evidence to the lifestyle you teach people.
Yeah, and sometimes, what it takes is sometimes you don't know what you want, right? And that's perfectly fine. It takes time to figure that out. I think a good way of looking at it is, what's great about all these sort of, personalities that are out there and mediapreneurs and people like that. I'm always a big believer in try to find people that, inspire you a bit, where you do think you're like, oh man, I like that lifestyle. I like you don't know what's out there until you see how people are really living their lives, and I think that sometimes, you're going to change over time. And also life events that happen are going to affect how you approach these things, right? So for example, meeting my wife completely changed my business back in the day, right? Because before then, it was all about me. It was all about me. I was traveling around. I was doing interviews with people all over the country. I could leave when I want. I did what I wanted. But you know what? As soon as I met my wife, I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to spend time with her. I wanted to spend time with more time with friends and doing more stuff here. So I was able to adjust our business to fit with that as opposed to the other way around. And I think that, it's funny is some of the more interesting stories that I've heard from people, there's oftentimes a life event that changes how they approach business and how they approach their life. Like it could be meeting a significant other. It could be having a child. It could be, God forbid, an illness or something like that, right? And people adjust on these sort of big time events. And, I think there's something to that as well, as that, that the bottom line is things are going to change. And the question is, are you going to change with it, or are you going to stick with an old style, that you're kind of stuck in?
It's so important to highlight the inevitability of change, because if you are looking externally, if you are looking to some fixed rule set, that doesn't have the ability to change. Whereas if you have that principle-centered nature and you have that map, although the terrain may go up or down, or there might be a fallen tree in the middle of the road, you can then navigate it and adapt to that change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Change is going to be inevitable. And the people that I see struggle, and this is just in business or lifestyle, it doesn't matter, whatever, it's they get so stuck in certain patterns or ways where they just it's like they write things in stone and then they don't want to change even when there's change obviously happening, right? I mean, like for me, and it's funny. It's like, something consciously that I've done over the last couple of years, like more on the lifestyle end of things, is that, when you get into a business like this on online, right, you're going to spend a lot of time behind the computer. You're going to spend a lot of time talking to people and stuff like that. But, you have to really be active to make sure that you're spending time with friends and being social and getting away from the computer, right? And that's something that I had to actively pursue. I wrote that down. I was like, listen, I need to make sure that I'm making plans with friends. Am I grabbing lunch? Am I getting out of the condo? Am I doing these different things? Because there's a huge social aspect to this as well. And I think it goes right along with the lifestyle. And it's all about, again, what you want.
David, speaking of what we want and adapting to change, I know you have some exciting new projects on the horizon. What's next for you, brother?
Lots of cool stuff. I'm always thinking about what's next and where I can kind of help people the most. A couple things that are going on that are pretty exciting. One is we've been doing these really cool workshops, and I'm super excited about that. I think any cool business is often bigger than yourself, right? And for me, I love bringing in very, very cool experts to teach on specific topics to people. So we're doing lots of really cool workshops where I'm bringing in people, and we're doing some cool workshops on the risetop.com. That's something that I'm very excited about, all about, again, helping mediapreneurs and things like that. And also, launched a big program this year that was pretty exciting called Great Awesome Online Courses. And, in a extreme brief nutshell, is that one of the top ways that people can basically make money from their passion or from their expertise or from something that they already know is by packaging it up and turning it into an online course. And that's one of the top ways that I make money, and it's a top way that a lot of my students make money and a lot of my friends make money, is all through these online courses. And I couldn't find anything out there that really taught a really, really simple and step-by-step way of creating your own online course and selling it to people. So I decided to create that, and that has been kind of our big flagship project this year, has been create awesome online courses, and that's been pretty exciting for sure.
Well, David, I appreciate having a life that is focused on making a difference, and I appreciate living that example of finding that which works for you and helping others find that which works for them as well. And folks, you can learn much more about David and all the exciting stuff that he has going on at his website, which is therisetothetop.com. Again, that's therisetothetop.com. And our guest today, again, was the electrifying David Siteman Garland. Thank you again for sharing your time with us, David.
Jonathan, it was an absolute pleasure. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and I look forward to connecting with listeners of the show. And keep up the good work, my man. It's always great to see people doing cool stuff that you can just absolutely tell that they love, which I know you do. And it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, David. And listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. And please remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Chat with you soon.
Wait, don't stop listening yet.
You can get fabulous free SANE recipes over at carriebrown.com.
And don't forget your 100% free eating and exercise quick start program, as well as free, fun, daily tips delivered right into your inbox at bailorgroup.com. That's BAILOR group.com.